Hey everybody, welcome back to Brainiac Baseball's 1980 Detroit Tigers season replay. Today we are having our league leaders and pre-draft extravaganza. It's a lot of words. I'm still workshopping the title, but today we're basically just going to take a few moments and go over the league leaders for the American League and National League. There's many categories involved here, but we're not going to go over them. We're just going to over all of them. We're just going to hit the major important categories. I'm a big sabermetrician personally, but we're just basically going to do the categories that are the most important and maybe the ones that we might find the most interesting. So in addition to that, the categories, that is, we're just going to take a moment and go over all the players that are going to be in the draft, which will take place in just 2 more days on June 4th. Today's the 1st of June. So, so we're just going to go over that real quick, maybe a 15-minute video here to cover that, and then we'll be done and moving on. So the first thing I'm noticing is for Baseball Mogul, these are the 4 main categories. So the first thing that's pretty obvious is there's no Detroit Tigers in these categories. If there were, if you're not familiar with this game, they would be highlighted in yellow. And so if you look at batting average, home runs, ERA, and wins, we're not anywhere in there, and yet we're still in first place. We have a 1-game lead. So we're doing something right, even though we're not having great success hitting or pitching. So I don't know what that factor is, but maybe we can figure it out by looking at these categories today. So let's get started real quick with batting average. It's right here in front of us. No Tigers, like I mentioned, but Larry Heisel and Buddy Bell are tied for the batting average leaders, and batting 347 after May. It's pretty good. We have 5 batters over 340, including 2 Hall of Famers, Robin Yount and George Brett. And if you go a little bit further down, Yaz, at age 40, is still contributing and putting up good numbers. So he not only is he on the top 10 in batting average, but he's leading the league in home runs at age 40. So that's pretty impressive. But otherwise, I don't see anything else here too unusual. If you had forgotten, Dwight Evans, who is a Boston player, typically did get traded over to Kansas City. So he's representing the Royals on the top 10 batting average. So let's take a look at the home run leaders. And as I mentioned, Yaz is in the lead. And then a bunch of names you might figure to be included in the home runs in 1980. Hall of Famer Eddie Murray. We have Dewey there again. There's Larry Heisel in both categories. John Mayberry for Toronto certainly has really great power. It's kind of nice to see Chet Lemon in both categories. Of course, Lemon the next year is traded to Detroit. We sent, I believe it was Steve Kemp, went to the White Sox. So, so it's good to see him up on the board. Of course, longtime New York Yankee Bobby Mercer's on there. So there's a bunch of, very common, well-known players. The only one that stands out for me over here is Jim Anderson, who I know is basically a career utility player. He's a shortstop in this game on the Mariners, and he's got 10 home runs, despite having just average power. So I'm sure that'll tail off. This is the equivalent of like Chris Shelton for the Tigers, tearing it up in April and then never hearing from the guy again. So that's probably what we can expect there. Before we get to the pitching categories, let's just go ahead and run through some of the other offensive categories really quick. So at bats, I'm sure it's not really a category that we care too much about, but at least we see that there's 4 Tigers on this list, including our top 3 batters. Actually, I guess Fisk is batting fourth now too. So our 1, 2, 3, and 4 batters in our everyday lineup are included here. And then, you got Boggs, and Rod Carew and George Brett, all future Hall of Famers. And let's take a look at doubles. I guess we're just going to go alphabetically. So look at doubles. And of course, if you need a longer look at any of these categories, all you have to do is pause it and take your sweet time with it. Rod Carew is leading in doubles with 17. There's Brett. There's La Grande Orange, Rusty Staub, Chester, Roy Howell, and Lance Parrish, our catcher, has 13 doubles. I'm not sure what Parrish ever really hit. I mean, if he ever hit 30 or more in a season, I guess I'd have to go look that up real quick. But having 13, which is half his total from his first full season in 1979, that's pretty good. So, and we have Hal McRae, Hoskin Powell, John Castino, and Chris Chambliss. All those guys have 13. Let's take a look at grounding into double plays. I bet you a Steve Kemp rookie card. Steve Kemp's got to be on this list. Oh, no. I guess I was wrong. Well, we'll have to take a look and see how many he has, because I would have guessed for sure he's grounded into so many double plays. But it's going to be the bunch of the old slow guys. Brett, Yaz, Ben Ogilvy, Rusty, a catcher, Steve Braun, Gorman Thomas, there you go. Bobby Mercer, old guy. So, yeah, these are all slow of foot base runners. So nothing too exciting there. Let's look at extra base hits. So those are doubles, triples, and home runs combined. Chet Lemon, good for that guy. Pretty much all the same we've seen so far. Barry Bonnell on that list. 11 doubles, 3 triples, 7 home runs. So impressive, and a great outfielder. This is a guy that I should trade for immediately. And I will look into that. He's got arbitration this year. So, yeah, I mean, he might cost me after this year. But that's a guy we can use to put in center field for Dave Stegman, who is definitely our first 2-month MVP, I guess. So now I don't know who that gets passed to. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Steve Kemp was leading the team in RBIs. So fielding average, although I do care about it, we don't need to go through that. Games played, yeah, I mean, we're going to see a lot of Tigers there. So moving on. Hits, there we go. This would be an interesting category. So there's Sweet Lou with 65 hits, tied with Wade Boggs, who, again, isn't his rookie year in this game, but of course in real life he didn't have a rookie year until 1982. So he's a couple years ahead of his pace. No extra base, no triples, no home runs, 9 doubles, but he's got a lot of base hits. And again, otherwise, not a lot of variation in the names. Who's been hit by pitch the most? And it's a 3-way tie. I'm sorry, it's a 6-way tie for 3. 7-way tie for 3. So, nothing overly interesting there. Home runs, we know, we've already done that. Who's been intentionally walked the most? Fisk has been intentionally walked 3 times. And, yeah, players you might expect: Rice, Reggie, Eddie Murray, Freddie Lynn. Lots of Angels players. That seems unusual. Again, it's only 4, 3, and 2, so we don't have to get too worked up over that. On base percentage, yeah, I care about that. No Tigers, unfortunately, but Sixto Lezcano with a 455 on base. And he did have a 420 on base percentage the previous year. So that is very impressive. Batting .333 with a .958 OPS. So good job by him. And, there's a couple odd ones in here, like Danny Goodwin, Rick Burleson, Brian Doyle, a number 9 hitter for the Yankees. That doesn't surprise me. That guy's been tearing us up pretty much all season. Outfield assists. Kemp has 5, and I believe Stegman had 4. Yeah, they're on the list. But Steve Braun leading the league in outfield assists with 7. Von Hayes on there. Bumbo Rivera with 4. So, yeah, that's pretty much a lot of those to be expected. Scooting through here quickly. Yeah, overall OPS. Take a quick look. There's Chester Lemon. And everybody else we've already discussed with their being in other categories. Plate appearances, we don't care about. Range factor. Okay, let's take a look at RBIs. So, Chet Lemon's got 44 RBI. Steve Garvey on Texas. I forgot he was traded over there earlier. 44, doing a good job for his new team. John Mayberry, and yeah, everyone else we've seen. What's Garvey batting? 300. So he's batting over 300, I guess. That's pretty solid. Okay, and then here's an interesting. We won't do any fielding, but let's take a look at which catchers have thrown out the most runners. Parrish has thrown out 15. Okay, maybe I need to get him back in defense then, instead of Fisk. And of course, Jim Sundberg, who always had a rifle for an arm, has 20. And these other catchers, I'm not too sure about, how strong their arms were back in the day. Darryl Porter did a lot of coke, so maybe that added to some of his power in his arm. Sorry, drugs are bad, kids. Okay, and then runners thrown out percentage. Ron Hassey, almost 41%. Parrish at 32.6%. Marv Foley of the White Sox rounding out the top 10. Okay. Runs. Well, this is nice. Whitaker is second in runs, tied with Bobby Mercer. The other Bobby Grich, is leading by almost 10 runs. Johnny Grubb of Texas has 37. Another future Tiger. He was on the World Series team. And Julio Cruz, speedster for Seattle, shows up on this list. So a few new players. Runs created. This is not a stat that I care about. Sacrifice hits, just out of curiosity. Oh, wow. So the worst hitter on my team is at least laying down some sacks. And Stegman had a few of those too when he was struggling earlier in the year. So, Brookins, part-time player, leading the league in sacrifice hits. And I'm not even a sack guy. I'm more of a Moneyball guy, personally. I don't give up any outs, but you do what you got to do to win in this game. Sack flies, you got Rick Manning, Garvey again, Jeff Burrows of Baltimore, a couple Tigers, JT, Tram, Don Baylor. Don Baylor was not on the list for hit by pitches. That's got to be a record. Okay, let's take a look at, I guess let's look at slugging real quick. Chet Lemon leading in that category as well. And Rupert Jones comes in at number 10. Everybody else looks pretty good. Rupert Jones had that grand slam against us earlier in the year. Okay, here we go. Stolen bases. I have no one with in the top 10 of stolen bases. Stegman was leading the team with 9, and now I believe now now that he's injured. I think Rick Peters is probably second with 7. But, these are people you definitely expect. Julio Cruz, Ricky B. Ricky, Willie Wilson, Alan Bannister was definitely fast. Joe Morgan, he's just stealing against us, I guess. And Bump Wills, which is Maury Wills' son. Maury Wills stole over 100 bases in 1 year, had the record before Ricky swiped that from him. Runs in the family, no pun intended. Steal success. 100% for some nudes. No tigers. Molitor. Okay. Total bases. Okay, quickly. Nobody that we haven't seen before, but Brett, first place in that. Triples. Kim Allen. So Kim Allen was just a utility player for the Mariners. I mean, this is his rookie season, and he's 27 years old. So this guy just has some really bizarre numbers: 5 doubles, 8 triples, no home runs. So that's just an oddity. And then 3 tigers, including Carlton Fisk with 3 triples. And he's an average speed guy. As a catcher, that's impressive. Otto Velez leading in walks. And Joe Morgan, number 2, is Reggie, of course. Rusty Kuntz. It's Kuntz. And Carl Pagel, the career minor leaguer who was on Cleveland, shows up on the list. So there's a few different names there. It's interesting. And okay, so that'll do it for the batting categories. Let's take a look at the ERA, the earned run average leaders. So we got no tigers, of course. We have Bruce Keeson with a 2.72 ERA. Let's take a look at him real quick. So this is his first year after leaving Pittsburgh, and he is doing a damn fine job. Wow, that's impressive. 8-2, 2.72 ERA. More walks than strikeouts, which is very strange. You see a lot of that in this version of this game. And then we have Jim Slayton, who missed part of the season due to injury. This Kuzman, Jesse Jefferson, Doc Medic, Roger Slagle. There's Slagle, the career minor leaguer, getting a chance to pitch every day for the Yanks. And Palmer and Louisiana Lightning and Ed Halicki rounds out the top 10. Taking a look at the wins, we have Mr. Jockey Underwear guy himself, Jim Palmer, Bruce Keeson again, Denny Martinez, perfect game thrower, Francisco Barrios of the White Sox. His career was cut short. He was actually, was he murdered or did he die in a car accident? There was something like that with Barrios. I'll look it up and I'll mention it in the comments. And then the Coos, Jeff Zahn, the guy that looks like the guy from Major League, right? And Guidry, Louis Tiant, El Tiante. And my arch nemesis, Frank Tanana. And I'll explain the reason why he's my arch nemesis in some other episode where we're playing the Angels. So let's take a look at the pitching stats. We're going to just cut through these fairly quickly. Complete games. Wow, Palmer's got 6 in 2 months. I guess for the 80s, this is pretty normal. Mike Norris, that's the other guy I was trying to think of in my baseball card opening when I was talking about Billy Martin. He burnt out Mike Norris's arm by pitching. I think he had like 25 complete games. Actually, we probably can look. Oh no, maybe that was coming up, I suppose. But anyway, Rick Langford on there too. A couple Oakland players. All right. ERA we've seen. Games pitched. I bet there'll be a lot of Tigers on this list. Yeah. I do use a lot of bullpen arms. Speaking of blowing out my team's arms, that's probably why Wilcox is already on the DL or the IL. So other than my Tigers, we have Dewey Robinson of the Sox, Goose, Eck, Mark Clear, and Dave Hamilton of Oakland. Let's take a look at home runs allowed. John Denny of Cleveland. He's their number one starter. We have yet to face him, even though we've had three series. We've had 3 series against the Indians, and we've yet to face him. Bill Paschal. Don't really know much about him. He's got 13 starts, and he is getting crushed. And so Scott McGregor, John Tudor, Tom Waddell, Tanana. Dave Rozema has given up 11 home runs. Probably why he's got a sub-6 ERA. Steve Busby, and there's Mike Norris again. Innings pitched. Yeah, no Tigers on this list. But these guys are definitely getting worked over. Palmer, Langford, Guidry. There's Slagle again. Coos, Tommy John. He's got a rubber elbow at this point. Dave Stieb. And other guys we've already mentioned. Quality starts. Yeah, I mean, my pitchers have a difficulty even going 5 innings. So we're definitely not going to see them on this list. But yeah, these are all the same players we've already mentioned, showing up on the quality starts list. And let's take a look at saves. So yeah, Aurelio Lopez is tied with Tippy Martinez for 13, and Goose is right behind him. Dewey Robinson, Jim Kern, Bob McClure, Eck, Mark Clear, Quiz, and Raleigh Eastwick. Oh, on the same team, 5 and 4. That's interesting. That rounds out the top 10. Shutouts? Halicki, Kuzman, and Jesse Jefferson all have 2. And many tied with 1. And steals, strikeouts. Oh, this is strikeouts bad. We missed the batting strikeout leaders. Yeah, Parrish is on that list, but Carl Pagel is got a big lead already. Wayne Gross is on there. Tony Armas. So not too many surprises there. Let's take a look at strikeouts pitched, as they call it. Yeah, we definitely don't have a lot of strikeout pitchers on my team. And really, in the 80s, the strikeout was really not a major category because all batters tried to put the bat on the ball, put the ball in play. So other than Nolan Ryan, and Guidry had 1 good year, Frank Tanana did throw a lot of fastballs until he blew his arm out. But all these other starting pitchers are probably on pace for what they normally would have had in that time period. Yeah, let's look at the Ks per 9. So Bannister around 7. Like, this would be a joke now, right? This wouldn't even be in the top 30 starting pitchers. And now, if you're not throwing 8 to 11 Ks per 9 innings, you're probably not going to keep your starting position very long. But Morris is on the list at hovering around 6. So that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I guess that basically covers it for pitchers. So There was one more thing I wanted to look at that I just happened to see. What was it? Okay, so yeah, steals allowed per 9. Catching, yeah, I guess Parrish is just slightly better than Fisk in that category. So I think we might have to go back to Parrish. So there you go. There's the American League. Let's take a look at the National League. And we'll do this fairly quickly because we won't have much contact with National League players. But Warren Cromartie, just right below 400. Warren Cromartie was one of those ball players who was on track to be, in real life, to be one of the greats. And his career got sidetracked with drug abuse. And I don't know what year it was. I want to say maybe he was starting in 82. You can see his production really tapering off. But he was on the right track to being a really solid hitter, much like a lesser version of Tony Gwynn. So yeah, too bad about that. Then we have Pops batting 347, Ron Esther, Keith Drumright on the last place Cleveland Indians. Gene Richards, Pete Rose, who yes got traded to the Dodgers earlier in the year, and Kenny Landreau, who just got traded a couple days ago from Minnesota to the Dodgers. So I guess his batting average flips over to the National League. Some guy named Gary Weiss on the Dodgers, and there's Mike Gates. Home runs, Ted Simmons, Hall of Famer, just was inducted 2 years ago. Or I guess it was last year, technically. And Roy Smalley, some weird names here. Darrell Evans, who was the oldest player to hit 40 home runs. He did it on the Tigers. Then there's Mike Cubbage, Joe Nolan, Cromartie, Dave Winfield, Keith Hernandez, Dane Orge, and Gary Matthews. So National League in the 80s was definitely a speed category team. All teams were, focused on speed. And we'll make sure we take a look at stolen bases for the National League. Oh, this should be ERA. And then ERA leaders is, I went ahead and looked at this guy earlier, Hector Eduardo. Hector Eduardo was a career minor leaguer. Let's pull this up real quick at Baseball Reference. Sorry, I shouldn't be taking this long. So yeah, career minor leaguer for St. Louis, and spent some time with the White Sox. But it looks like he was somebody who was definitely fast-tracked to the major leagues. And then the wheels came off when he got to AAA. So he must have been released, right? And then he went to the Sox. But put up some seriously good numbers. I guess he was pretty wild to have 100 walks in the minor leagues. Yeah, 448 walks versus 501 Ks. So that's why Hector Eduardo did not succeed in real life. But he's getting a chance here with the Cardinals. And that's one of the things I really like about this game is they do add significant minor leaguers and foreign baseball players into the game so that you can see what their career would have been like if they got a fair shot. So Nolan Ryan, Lefty Carlton, Steve Rogers. Here's the knuckleballer Phil Niekro, Mike Scott, a couple other Bruce Berenier, Ed Whitson, Dick Ruthven. And in wins, Nolan Ryan never won 20 games in a season, but he's had 9 wins right here. And there's Steve Rogers. So a lot of the same names we just saw in the other category. Randy Jones won a Cy Young for the Padres. He had 25 wins. I think that was 72. I can't remember. Oh, I could probably just click on this. 76. That was the year he won the Cy Young. And yeah, there you go. So just let's go over a couple quick categories. Let's see. Hits. Gene Richards. Of course, Pete Rose is in there. Terry Poole. 65 hits, hitting in the old Astrodome with the AstroTurf. They got the carpet. Nobody else of real importance. Let's see. RBIs, let's take a look there. Cromartie, I think he's got the Triple Crown, maybe. Let's see. Denny Walling of Houston. Mike Ivey. He eventually went to the Tigers, I think, for a couple years, 81 and 82. All right. Runs scored. Gene Richards, he's just all over the board. Hey, there's Ozzie. Okay. And steals. So let's take a look at the steals. Oh, nothing out of control. Gene Richards on that board as well as Gary Reedus, Ron LaFleur, Ozzie, Rodney Scott, Bill North. So, yeah, all of those specific players were known for their speed. I don't know about Perconte or Poole or Mazzilli or Dade, but certainly, Ron LaFleur led the league in steals. Triples? 5 for Jerry Remy on Atlanta. Okay, so we'll take anything important for pitching that we didn't see. I guess I'm curious about strikeout leaders. 98 for Nolan Ryan. And then J.R. Richard and Steve Carlton right behind him. Phil Niekro, not a strikeout pitcher, but maybe his knuckleball's been working really good this year. Don Sutton. So, Mario Soto was a strikeout pitcher. But these other guys are just average major leaguers. Okay, so, that's all very fascinating. I've been looking forward to getting into the leaders and checking them out. Let's go ahead and take a look at the standings real quick. So here we are, Detroit. We have a 1-game lead on Baltimore, 2.5 on the Yankees. And then Milwaukee and Toronto's 8.5 back. Boston's 12 back, and Cleveland is 15.5 games back on a 4-game losing streak. In the West, Texas is in first by 2 games over California, and the Royals are 4 games back. Chicago and Minnesota are 5 and 5.5 games back. Oakland and Seattle are tied for last. The Minnesota's been making a lot of trades. I don't know if they're trading because they're out of it or trading because they're still in it. But I find this somewhat interesting, where our 266 batting average is 11 points below the league average. And our home runs are slightly up over average, and our ERA is below average. So I guess that's how we're doing it. Is surprisingly with pitching, because the best pitching staff are the Angels with a 3.75, right? And then it's the Yanks, and then Toronto and Detroit are right there. So I guess our pitching has really been pushing us ahead. Taking a look at the National League, Philadelphia's got a half-game lead against St. Louis. Then Pittsburgh, below 500, but in third place. Wow, 8.5 games back already. Montreal at 9 games back. New York, 10.5. And the Cubbies are 20.5 games back at 15-41, but they did win one in a row, so you got to give them that much. In the National League West, Houston 33-22. Cincinnati, they made that trade with Minnesota. That's so weird. I don't know. But the Reds and the Reds traded. No, it was the Phillies. Okay, never mind. So yeah, and then the Dodgers 3.5, Padres 4.5, San Fran 6 games back, and then Atlanta is 11.5 back. So, the National League, not a power league at all. Only 32 home runs, but the ERA is significantly lower, as you might expect, with no DH. All right, so let's go ahead and do the draft spectacular pre-draft draft, right? Still workshopping that name as well. So look at the draft editor. What this does, it shows you the order in which all the teams will be picking. And the Tigers have the 15th overall pick in the draft, and that's not so good. Pittsburgh won the World Series, the We Are Family Pirates in 1979. So they had the last pick, and the Blue Jays will have the first. So Blue Jays, A's, Mets, Braves, Mariners, Padres, Giants, Sox, White Sox that is, the Dodgers, and then the Cubbies round out the top 10. So that's the order in which they'll be picking. And let's go ahead and take a look and see who's going to be available in the amateur draft. So the way I like to look at this is I sort by scouting. And as you can see right here, let's close that out. I've already got it sorted by scouting. And so Roger Clemens, who I believe, he's 17. So these are all high school age players looking to be drafted. So there's Rocket is definitely going to be the best choice overall. And then Sid Fernandez, Danny Tartabull, Darryl Strawberry, Kevin Mitchell, Bo Jackson, Darren Dalton, Doug Drabeck, Ricardo Sainz. I looked him up. He is a career Mexican League player. He played until he was 45 years old, and he's very famous in the Mexican leagues. And so he's going to get an opportunity to be drafted in the majors here. So I thought that was kind of cool. Then you got Wally World, Bill Wegman, the geriatric Jamie Moyer, Danny Jackson, Mark Gardner, and then Mark Gubiza. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So yeah, we can speculate that Mark Gubiza might be the best player on the board, or perhaps Chuck Finley, depending on, once I do a little research to see who might be the better pick for the Tigers. But the way this game works with the draft is that if a player is available that was drafted by that team in real life, they are likely to be drafted in this game. So although Toronto has the first pick and Clemens is the going away number one option, they might not pick Roger Clemens. They might not pick anybody until they get down to some hypothetical Toronto. So Toronto player, they might pick Jay Tibbs. I know he was drafted by the Orioles, but I'm just using that as an example. So he could be the overall number one pick. I don't really like that about this game. And there's a way you can change the settings, and so that doesn't happen. And I have done that, but you never know how it's going to work out. So at any rate, you can see all the great names on the board. You're looking at, half the players are going to be quality players to add to a roster. And then you go all the way down here to the end, and you're looking at Dick Scott or Mike Radska, I have no idea. So Jim Whalewander, He was drafted by the Tigers, and he was a punk rocker. That's all I remember about him. Yeah, so like you get a lot of names here you're not going to recognize for the most part. I mean, Sherman Corbett was a closer for the Angels briefly. And of course, there's Billy Beane, the Billy Beane of the Moneyball fame. And, if Billy Beane's out there, I'll draft him. But anyway, so I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of that. When the day comes for the draft, which will be on the 3rd, we're going to play 2 games. And then when I go to advance on the day off, the draft will begin. And so when I'm finished playing the second game of the month of June, after this game, I will hold the draft. And it'll only take a few minutes. So I'll try to do some research in advance so that I'm aware of my picks. But we need a starting pitch. Well, I guess we're looking at the future, right? So, whomever the best player on the board at 15 is probably who I'll go with. So anyway, I appreciate everyone following along and enjoying watching the game. I've got a lot of good feedback, and I appreciate that. If you are new and you're just popping in, wondering what the hell you're watching, this is a Baseball Mogul, and it's my favorite game, and you should download it. You can get it for free, older versions, or you can get the new version for $39.99. It's on the Baseball Mogul, Sports Mogul website. So take a look at that, and until tomorrow, everyone, have a great night.